Welcome to another Sunday School webinar. And for you that was not attending last Sunday School, we started a series of interesting subjects. So this is the second opportunity to listen into the series that we're going to do here for a couple of weeks. And last week, we started with the Great Law, and we will continue to talk about these laws that are really interesting. And if you've never been here before, this is a webinar that is for you so that you can grow, get inspired, motivated, get some new ideas for your business and for your life. Because we talk about principles. There is no talk about compensation plans or back office or technical issues. This is pure personal development. So welcome you all, old and new, to this Sunday School. And I will start with this. We had this slide last Sunday, but it's good because it's principles, and it's also connected to the laws that we are talking about. And I took this from one of my mentors, Miles. And you got to understand, when wherever you are on your journey, if you're super successful, you just started, it doesn't matter, because this is not a race against other people. It's a race against yourself. So personal development is about you becoming better, not comparing yourself to others, because that will make you unhappy in most cases. So you can use other people as, like a goal, that you will become like someone, or you want to have some material success like someone have. You can use that, but don't compare yourself. You can only compare yourself with you. You got to understand that you are designed for success as who you are. And since you are designed for success, and what do I mean by that? Well, that's in the creation. You have a brain, you have a conscious mind, you have a subconscious mind, you have powers that you haven't even looked into yet. I don't know, but so you get what I'm talking about. Einstein, he said that we humans, we have such power that he used a number. I don't know if it's true or not, but this was just an example of how powerful our minds could be. He said we're only using 7% of our capacity. Wow. So 93% of our capacity is unused. So we are designed for success, and we can choose. We are human beings. We're not human doings, but we can choose. We have thought process. We can choose what we should think, and that's the message of all personal development. You can choose one thought over another. That makes us above everything else in the creation. Anyway, so you're designed for success. Everything in life is designed and functioned by laws. So that tells us that if everything in life is designed and functioned by laws, success is really predictable. Because if you follow those laws, you will be successful. And on the other hand, you're not following those laws, failure is predictable. So this is not a bold statement from I've heard this so many times from many people, that success is totally predictable, but also failure is, of course, since you can measure those two against each other. And like I said, you have a thought process, you have a subconscious mind, and you have a conscious mind. And that's what we're talking about here. You know, if you have been with me, you know, I've learned you a couple of tricks. I learned you a couple of things. Uh, yeah, the last sessions. And that is that your success will always be related to your core belief system. Your core belief system is what you really think about things. You think that you know stuff, or you're thinking right about stuff, but then you have a core belief system which will either help you in your success, or it will be against you in your success. Because maybe you have let's say like this, a person starts a business. That person has a core belief system which tell that person that rich people are crooks. Many people have that belief. I had that belief system many years ago, that people who have stuff or a lot of money, there's a lot of rich people that are crooks. I'm not saying that it isn't, but I'm saying if you have a mindset that tells you that all people that are rich are crooks, your core belief system will work against you when you're trying to get rich. Do you get it? So that's how our core belief system works. It's a programming of actually who you really are. And that is what you need to change. That's why we're here on these Sunday school webinars. So your core belief system could tell you that, for instance, one certain type of humans are in a way, they behave like this, or they are this or that. But it's not true, because it's just a programming that you got from someone else. So media in the country you live, they're really good at programming. Media, television, television. Anyway, so this is a principle, fundamental thing you need to get down, that you have a core belief system. Everyone has one, you know. There's not like, oh, he's so successful, he doesn't have a core belief system. Yes, he does, but his core belief system works with him, not against him. So that's where you need to change. And how do you change your core belief system? It's hard. It takes time. That's why you need to be on sessions like this, and reading books, and you know, filling your mind with positive stuff, and first of all, the right stuff. Because my saying, I haven't used it in a while, but never take instructions from someone who can't take you to the next level. Who can take you to the next level? Well, people who live by principles, and people who know what's going on, and people who have done it before. So if you've done it once, you can do it again. And if you've been through something, you can teach people and learn them how to behave in situations that used to baffle them before. So the great law, we started with this. I will go through this real quick so you have fundamental, then we'll go into some new stuff. The great law, this is the great law above all laws, kind of, but it's not better than any other law. It's just the great law. And the great law says, and now I spell it right, what we sow is what we reap. That is the great law. So you got to remember, this is not a blame game. This is not about pointing to anyone and say, you're better or worse than anyone else. This is just laws. It works for everyone. And I'm not talking about short-term material success. I'm talking about lifetime. Maybe, you know, like one of my mentors, Brian, he said that you got to set goals that are so big so they affect people after you left planet Earth. So you get it now? That is how you should think. You should think about the only thing that you have that's worth something, that is your soul. So the great law is what we sow is what we reap. So generally, easy speaking, you know, if I do a lot of presentations, I have a better chance of succeed, because that is what I saw. I saw a lot of presentations. So if you do few presentations, you have lesser chance of getting successful, of course. So that's one way to look at sow and reaping. Another way is if you tend to exaggerate, or maybe you're pulling some lies, you're sowing bad stuff that will come back to you. So never lie, never exaggerate, stick to the truth. You can motivate people without lying. That's another way of sow and reaping. Your attitude is another way of sow and reap. You have a great attitude, which people will like you, and they will say, hey, I want to be around him or her. Or you have a lot of knowledge. So it's a way of sow. You acquire knowledge, you read a lot and you study a lot. So you're full of knowledge. It's definitely sowing. You sow into yourself. So this is actually everything we do. Everything we do is what we sow, and then we will reap accordingly. And you heard me say before that we don't reap what we need, we reap what we deserve. So that is in the great law. Then we have the law of creation. We talked about this last Sunday as well. And the law of creation tells us that life does not happen by itself. We need to make it happen. So this law ties into the first law, because some people think that free stuff is good. No, there's no such thing, because life does not happen by itself, and free stuff is happening by itself. So it will not work. It will never work. It will work maybe for a short period of time, but you're fooling yourself. So you got to put in to get out. The law of creation tells us that we need to make it happen. That's why it's always connected to the law of knowledge. For instance, like you can't give what you don't have, and you can't have what you have not become, because becoming is the key in life. You becoming. When you're becoming, you're changing your outside world. So that is the law of creation. We got to be involved ourselves. So it's not that someone will do it for us, because no, it will not work. If someone is doing it for you, you'll get free stuff. It will not work. I'm just telling you. And then we have the law of growth. We talked about the law of growth. And the law of growth tells us that so you see, it ties into the first law and the second law that we talked about. When we change ourselves, our life changed too. Wow. So we have to become something, someone, because when we're becoming, that's the purpose of the journey. That's the law of growth. We grow as human beings. We learn stuff. And how do we learn stuff? By doing. And follow principles. If you're following the laws, you will learn, whether you like it or not, whether you understand it or not. You're just doing stuff according to the principles of the laws, you will succeed, because the law will change you whether you like it or not. And then we had the law of humility. So humility is a big part of all growth, because humility, without humility, there's only ego. And the humility law tells us that you got to accept something or a situation in order to change it. Some people don't accept something or a situation. They don't accept it. They still live in a fantasy, so they can't change it. Because in order to change it, you got to go down to the core and accept the situation. Say, okay, This is where I am now, and I gotta, do it myself. I gotta crawl up. I gotta do whatever it takes. This is the situation. This is what happened to me, or I made it happen to me. So you gotta accept. Acceptance is the key. Acceptance is the key. Because without acceptance, nothing will happen. Okay, so now I'm going into a couple of new ones. So this is the series that you don't want to miss. And tell your team, tell your leaders that you don't want to miss this series because this is good stuff. The law of change. The law of change. What does it tell us? The law of change tells us that history will repeat itself until we learn to change our path. So when we learn something, when we've gone through a lesson and we learn that lesson, then we can move forward. It's a law. So this tells us that you will get the same problems. They will come back to you. If you didn't learn the first time, they will come back to you. They will kick you in your rear and tell you, here I am again. Here's the problem because you didn't learn the first time or second time or 10th time or 12th time. And if you take this law and you apply it to yourself and you're honest to yourself and say, wow, this has happened to me because I did one thing and I didn't like it. Then I moved on to another thing. And what happened? I had the same problem, to the place I moved, or it could be geographically, it could be technical. You did something, but the thing is that people think that the grass is greener on the other side, but they forget who they bring to the other side. They bring themselves. So when people try to flee, they try to move without learning. So they do something and they don't like it, then they, for instance, like let's say like this, a couple get married. And marriage is hard. You got to work. You got to work for your marriage. And you got to be humble and you got to apply all these things. Anyway, so you're in a marriage. And then they make up their mind and say, hey, no, I don't like this. So I want to get a divorce. That's the easy way out for people. I'm not saying that, I'm no marriage counselor. I'm just saying the principle behind it is that when they do that, they forget that they take themselves with them in the new relationship. So all of a sudden they're in a new relationship and they have the same problems in the new relationships as they had in the old one because the grass is not greener on the other side. You got to water the grass that's under your feet. So history will repeat itself until we learn. And when we learn, then we can move on to the next level or the next problem. So problems is part of the equation. And some people are afraid of problems. They live in fear. We talk a lot about fear in these program sessions, fear or fight, fear or love. And some people choose fear all the time. So they live a fear-based life and they never learn. That's the law of change. And you see that it ties into the other laws, does it? Yes, it does. Then we have a really great one, the law of responsibility. You see, the word responsibility is two words. It's ability and respond. So the ability to respond. Every person has ability to respond. It just takes discipline, just takes courage, just takes positive thinking, just takes action. But most people don't. They live in fear. And fearful people, they are not responsible. They tend to flee from their problems. But this is the law of responsibility. What does it say? We must take responsibility for our lives. So no one else will do it for you. You got to do it. And Does this ties into the other laws? Yes, it does. As you can see, these are principles, the law of responsibility. So the situation you're in now is starting with the great law. You have sown into the world. That's why you're in this situation. There can be no other way. You have been thinking. The sum of your thoughts up until today is where you are at today. There can be no other way. You are the captain on your ship. You're steering the ship, whether you like it or not. So now you got to take responsibility for what you're doing in your life. You can't blame someone else. You can't blame, another leader, or maybe they tricked you, maybe they lied to you. That's okay. The first time you get lied to is you're a victim. Every time after that, it's optional, because that's what you need to learn. You need to learn to read people and see and make your own decisions. Could this be an exaggerating thing that he or she is saying, or is it not? Well, let's try it. So there's nothing. If you're not living in fear, you try stuff, and then you see, well, it was true what she said, or it was not true. So the law of responsibility is talking to us and telling us, you got to do it. You got to take action. You got to make that phone call. You got to go or not go. You need to sign up or not sign up. It's you. Then we have another beautiful law, the law of connection. The law of connection, and if you see here now, you go back to the law of change, and the law of connection is that we're living in the now, but we're all connected to the past, and the now present is connected to the future. And the past is also connected to the future. They're all connected. They have nothing to do with each other, because what happened. You can change it in the present, but you can learn from it. You can say, wow, I could see what was happening last week or last year, and now I'm not doing the same mistakes. Then we go back to the low responsibility, because you take your ability to respond, to react to the situation you're in, is now benefiting you. So the law of connection is interesting. This is, who did you spend time with in the past? What did you do in the past? Who did you learn from? Or who did you take advice from? It will affect your present and the future, because they're all connected. But the great thing with the whole creation is that we're not victims. We're victors. We can change the future by changing the way we think. So we're not victims. And when you get this lesson, your life will never be the same. So the law of connection is a great thing to measure where you are. The problem is with people when they're listening to a webinar like this is that they get cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance kicks in. So they will go, no, that, they will play victims. So they'll go, no, that person lied to me and it is his fault or her fault. No, it's not. You let them lie to you. Or that person did this to me. Yeah, you let them do that to you. Like I said, the first time we're a victim, because we never experienced it. All the rest is optional. Because when we experience it, we know. We just have to get in the right flow with the right people, stick to the winners, and learn to be humble. This is humbleness, because cognitive dissonance is playing with the ego. It says, don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He can't even spell. I did some wrong spelling on some slides here last time, and I think sometime it was some a sentence that were wrong, and I saw people were commenting on that, and I just answered them back and said, hey, you're missing the point. It's not the spelling, it's the message. If some person suffer from dyslexia, that means that that person can't see if you put a word or a sentence in the wrong way. And I suffer a little bit from dyslexia. I can agree. I admit, I'm not ashamed of that. I don't know where it comes from. I have no idea. But that's not the point. The point is the power of the message. It's not the spelling, But a negative mindset will look after the spelling and find fault in that, instead of taking the message and say, hey, I get it. This message is powerful. Anyway, so ego have everything to do with cognitive dissonance. Ego would play along with cognitive dissonance, which means that it's dissonance. It's not harmony. So it will dissonance with the new information that comes in. Will say, like with the old information. And what is the old information? Well, I already mentioned it here in the webinar. That's your subconscious mind. That's what the old information, where the core belief system, that's where the information will dissonance with the new information. That's why you need to be disciplined. And the best way of taking you through stuff is action. So when new information occurs, take action and be disciplined and follow the laws. Because everyone here at this webinar, we're all in the same situation. We're just on different levels. No one is better than the other one. It's just different levels. So everyone, including me, on this webinar, our best thinking got us where we are now. That's a hard one to swallow. Some will swallow it, some will not, but that's the truth. And if they follow the laws, everything will be fine. If they didn't, no, they have to change, because problem is part of the equation. Because opposite of being humble is ego. The ego will play, like I said, with the cognitive dissonance. Ego would play with the old information, with your core belief system, say, no, that's not right, that's not right. Instead of saying, well, I got to think about this because this sounds good, Another thing that happens is, I'm not going to go into that now, but it's the comfort zone. When people have a comfort zone and they set goals and they move outside the comfort zone, cognitive dissonance, the core belief system kicks in and say, hey, be careful. What are you doing? And bam, they go back to the comfort zone they're in. That's why discipline is the key word to all personal development. And I will end with this, and I will do that every week when we're doing this theme here, and that is, know what you want. You got to set, this is setting goals, but it's also, small stuff. Know what you want. You got to know where you're going, because if you don't know where you're going, who will know that? Someone else is doing it for now. So you got to know what you want and where you're going. Then you give expression of gratitude. Gratitude and a grateful heart is a great heart. Grateful, full of great. A grateful heart is full of great. Ungrateful, not so much full of great. Keep your mind open for inspiration. Don't say, I know it all, or I heard that before. Keep your mind open and say, hey, well, I got to think about it in a different way this time. And if you're overtaken by defeat, just keep on going. Just keep on moving. The key to every successful businessman, person in the world, they never gave up. They just kept on. Then you got to have a burning desire. Your goals get fired up. And then when doubt comes into your mind, you just plug into the Sunday school webinars, and then your belief will grow. By that, I will say we will meet next Sunday, and everyone have a wonderful rest of your day, night, evening, morning, and go out in the world and change people, help them. You change yourself first, and then you help them change. And that's the key. Go out in the world and help them. Be prosperous, happy, joyous, and free. Most of all, free. Because if you're free in your mind, you can always change. See you next Sunday, guys.